Hey everyone, welcome. Thank you for joining me today. I hope that this audio isn't too loud in your ear. I made some adjustments to my microphone because we've been doing a lot of recording lately, and I'm in the office today. This morning early, I've been here for a few hours, been working on some things, been putting together this training and this presentation for you as well, and also reaching out to clients. Scheduling emails and such like that. So I feel free to leave comments. I'm not sure if I'll see them. I'm on the Aaron's Estate Sales Facebook page right now, looking at those. But today I wanted to talk about something very important because I think that there's a lot of people that need help right now, and a lot of people that need help in business or need help in in their life, not just in business, but this training today is really for every person, to shift your mindset, hopefully, and to get you thinking the right way to handle this situation. Me personally, I own an estate sale company in Birmingham, Michigan, and we service all of Metro Detroit, so I have a very service-based business, which means I have to go out and see clients, and I have to sell things to people in person. So our business is shut down 100% currently, and I still see people running estate sales or online estate sales with pickup, and it's really not okay. Definitely the safety of our staff, the safety of our customers, the safety of our clients is the most important thing. And so sometimes you have to take a step back, and when you take a step back, this is very different than the message I've been promoting before this happened, before we were shut down by government order. I was promoting push. Keep pushing, keep creating, keep promoting, and those were the right actions, absolutely. So now what though? Now what do you do? What is the next step? What do you do when you're sitting there and you're stuck? You can't do anything, you can't produce anything. If you're like me, my current situation is my wife is full-time. She's a full-time engineer on an essential service, so she has to work to make sure that everything stays running in this world, and also she's doing her master's program online. So now that we have no childcare, babysitters, I have to take on that role, and I'm taking on that role of full-time dad, and it's been amazing for the past couple weeks. But when you have a business that's sitting there and it's just like there's no revenue being produced, there's no production, I'm sure this is what people are feeling that lost their jobs, or that their revenue is being cut back, or they're not receiving income right now because of the situation. And that's why I wanted to talk to everybody on this, not just business owners or people who are self-employed or things like that, because I think that everyone needs to start thinking of what happens after, or how does this end up playing out, and in which situations does it play out, and how do I handle it in those situations. So thank you guys for joining us today. I know there's some of us on here. Basically, the first viewpoint I want to communicate is that the world has changed. And a lot of people are still in denial about that, or still speculating that, or still, considering that. If you're waking up and you're checking the news still every morning, right before you go to bed, checking the news, still searching, still looking for there to be some sort of news or some sort of good news, I would just say that, hey, the world has changed, and this is the new normal, and this is what we're going to have to deal with over the next months, a year, however long. And the sooner you move beyond, oh my God, what's happening? Is this happening? How is this happening? And move to, okay, this is how it is, and this is how it's going to be for a little while. I highly doubt that on the 13th of April, when my state opens back up, that we're just going to open back up. I highly doubt that. I think that the government order will be extended personally. But then also, let's say it's not extended. Let's say, okay, they say in a week or a week and a half, they say, hey, everyone open back up, feel free to do business, go for it. Do you really think that your business is going to be the same? Or do you really think your life is going to be the same? Or do you think your job is going to be the same? Is your job going to still be there? Now, I know that when we laid everyone off in my company so that they could actually get some sort of revenue from other places, that the idea is to, oh, let's just hire everyone back. We do have enough work. We have tons of jobs lined up for estate sales. We have massive jobs lined up. But as this thing plays out more and more, things change. And change is the biggest thing I want to talk about, because what it looks like when we open back up, 2 weeks being shut down, between 2 months being shut down, is a very different circumstances. And I think I want people to understand that I want you to get beyond that this is happening, or the world is ending, or all of these things that are happening, or it's getting worse. And just get to the point where it's like, okay, this is bad. This is never going to be the same. Your life, your world, the world as we knew it will never be there ever again. Assume the reality of that, like understand the reality of that, and then we can start thinking of, okay, well, in this new world, what do we have to do? Okay, we're starting over. I would say every person, every business, every person personally can assume this point is like, okay, total rebirth. What am I going to do going forward? What do I want to do going forward? What do I need to be doing going forward? How do I create revenue going forward? How does the world look if I can't get customers to come into my store? Or how does the world look if for the next year all of my customers have to be 10 feet apart or 6 feet apart and I can only have so many people in my store, or I can only have so many people around me? Or how does my work look if I go back to work and everything's changed? Because it has changed and it will change. And so you have to consider this. People are retooling, redoing whole factories in order to keep people further apart. So how is your life going to change if you do go back to the world and get a job, if you do go back and you are able to find work, if this thing does only last for a month, if this thing lasts for 3 months, what do you think this looks like on the economy and the world, like when you get back to it? So you have to assume that the world has already changed, and then you have to start thinking, well, I have to change. So I have to change how I'm operating. I have to change what I'm doing on a day-to-day basis. So the definition of change is to make or become different. And I would say that right now the world is obviously different than it was before. And another definition that I really liked was give something up in exchange for something else. Change. And so this is what I want to focus on today, because you need to think about, all right, what do I need to give up? What was I doing 3 weeks ago that won't work in this new world, or that needs to change, or that I need to give up so that I can replace it with something else, or that I can do something else with it? So me and my business, I need to look at how we were operating and what do I need to give up in how we are operating so that I can survive and go forward in this new world and thrive. So change. Give something up in exchange for something else. It comes from Latin, and the derivation, the derivative, is barter, which is really interesting because in bartering or negotiating, you have to give something up to get what you want. And so that might be a little bit better way of putting it, is I want you to give things up in the past that aren't, or that you're currently still doing, in order to get what you want out of life and to get what you want out of business and to get what you want. So things to do now. You have to understand the full reality. You have to know, like, hey, get past the point. Stop going on social media. Stop going on the news and just say, all right, what do I have to do now going forward? Understand, the next thing you have to do is assess your liabilities and your assets. And I think this is a huge point, because a few months ago, I was thinking about how sometimes my business is one of my biggest assets, and right now it has become one of my biggest liabilities. So every single thing to you that is an asset can become a liability. And this is one of the huge points here, because you have to assess what are my assets and what are my liabilities, and have my assets become liabilities. So some of your assets or some of your liabilities, it could go either way. Your house could be a huge asset right now, or it could be a huge liability and going towards a liability, or it could change over to a liability at some point. Your car, if I just bought a new car and I was like expanding my business and I bought a $100,000 car, and then all of a sudden my revenue dries up, well, maybe that asset became a liability. Employees could be another one. Employees in my business could be an asset, or they could be a liability. Who was an asset? Who could be an asset going forward? Who was always kind of a liability, or who was the liability that you just kind of weren't, viewing, you weren't being honest about because you were getting along. That's not going to work in this new world. So you have to assess which employees, that could be people around you. That could be your family. Your family could be assets, especially going through the situations, or they could be huge liabilities to your future. So products, pricing, your old pricing might have been an asset to that company, but now it could be a huge liability. Nobody's going to pay it. Nobody has the money to buy it, Same thing with real estate. I keep hearing people say, oh, this isn't a real estate bubble. This isn't a real estate crash. Okay. Well, at what point does that asset of your real estate business become a liability because nobody can afford houses, or nobody can buy houses because the economy has crashed? You have to assess what are your current assets and what are your current liabilities, and those could change at any time. So another thing that could be an asset or a liability would be your free time. I know a lot of people right now who have taken their free time and it's turned into a massive liability because they're not doing anything with it except for sitting on Netflix or doing nothing, or I've been there too, luckily I'm a full-time dad now with my daughter, so she doesn't let me have time for anything. So I'm like trying to do work while I'm cooking dinner, while she's watching a movie. And yeah, it's nice. You have to have free time. You have to sometimes sit there and I watch the movie with her, I'll be like, okay, let me just take a break for a minute. But if you're binging shows on Netflix right now, maybe your free time is a liability, Maybe you've let your free time turn into a liability. So these are all things you have to consider. Your health. I know that for me, I've gotten more healthy in this situation. I've lost a ton of weight in this situation. I had to make sure that my health didn't go to being a huge liability. Health could be a massive liability right now. If you're not building your immune system or doing actions to do something about your body and your health, well, then you're more susceptible to viruses. And so you have to determine what is an asset and what is a liability. So once you assess that, you need to remove everything that doesn't help. You need to consider, all right, these are my liabilities. I need to get rid of these things. And now is the time to do it. Now you have the ability to do it. Now you have, everyone would understand. I see a bunch of things coming through. I see some love coming through. I see some hate coming through. Please share this with your friends, and we'll keep going on this. So you have to remove everything in your environment that doesn't help you. You have to get on that course that you wanted to take. You have to learn that skill that you can go online and learn. You have to spend the time. You have to remove all of your liabilities. So if your liabilities are the people around you, or the people that you're watching, or the news, you're just intaking that data and it creates this thing where you're not doing anything, then maybe you need to remove that liability. Things that assets you need to make sure you keep in. So if your wife and kids is your biggest asset and they're supporting you through this, or you have friends that are creating and working out and exercising and learning new skills and doing something, then you need to firm up those assets. So but that would mean getting in discipline. And so you have to get in discipline on those liabilities and get in discipline on those assets. You have to become very honest with yourself. Are these people that I used to have in my space assets or liabilities? If they're liabilities, now's the time. Now's the time to say, nope, I'm not doing that anymore. In this new world, in this new future, I'm going to do this to make myself the best I can be. And that's why I wanted to communicate this to everybody, not just business owners, but really everyone here, is because I think that you guys you have one of the biggest opportunities right now with having to stay at home, with having to not go outside, with having to not work, is you can redetermine, you can reevaluate all of your liabilities and assets, and you have to, or else you're not going to be prepared going forward. You're going to keep doing things that are going to put you in a place that you can't be in. You don't have the luxury anymore of doing the things which have become liabilities, period. So get a discipline, produce revenue, keep a schedule, keep a schedule. I was here this morning. I woke up at 6, and my daughter, she woke up and she was like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "I'm trying to go to work." And she's like, "No, you need to sleep." So I woke up at 6:45, and then I got here. I got to work. And for me, I had to do some things in the office. I had to run some payroll. I had to make sure clients were taken care of. And then I'm going back home. But I'm going to make sure I go to bed at 9:30 every single night so I can wake up on time. And I'm not eating crap. I'm going to cook my food. I'm going to eat healthy. I'm going to do something about my situation. I'm going to learn a new skill. I'm going to take the time and make sure that my daughter's taken care of. All these things you have to keep in your discipline. So make a list. The next thing I would say is make a list of anything that you can offer, any skills you have, any services you can offer, anything that you can do going forward. And maybe you can't do those things right now, but you need to know this is my plan for when I get out of this thing. You need to make a list of all of anything that you can do personally. And then you need to make a list of every single person you know. You need to make a list of your family members. You need to make a list of your customers if you're a business, your sold customers. You need to make a list of your unsold customers. You need to make a list of your past customers. If this is a person talking, you need to make a list of anyone that you've exchanged with. Maybe people you've worked with, or people you've worked for, or people that you know are doing what you want to be doing. You need to make a list of these contacts, because these lists become how you can produce on those skills or anything that you can do. And if you don't have a skill, then this is a great time to learn a skill. This is a great time to go on the internet and learn a new skill. Learn how to do design work. Learn how to, build website. I know these are huge things, but you can learn how to do something that can help someone else, because you'll need to start exchanging with people sooner or later. And it'd be better to have a skill, be thinking about having a skill now instead of 3 months from now. So you need to expand into those contexts. Let's say I have a skill, I have a cleaning company, and I clean houses or something. Or I don't have a cleaning company, I just know how to clean really good. So I make a list of all the things that I can do. I can clean this, I can clean that, these are my services that I can do. And then I make a list of every single person I know, and then I start calling them. And then you need to start hitting the list. You need to start just communicating out towards that list. You need to start saying, "Hey, how are you? I'm calling to check in on you. What's going on? What are you up to? Blah, blah, blah." Or you send emails, "Hey, I'm just reaching out. I was thinking about you." You need to start communicating into the marketplace on whatever skill or service you have to anyone that you know. But make different lists. This is my family list. This is my past customer list. This is my unclosed customer list. People you never sold anything to. This is my future, whatever it is. So starting over, if you consider this whole like a reset, pushing the reset button, this is your chance to start over. This is your chance to do anything that you want to do going forward. But just know that you will not necessarily be able to do the things that you were doing or the things you wanted to do like they were being done before, if that makes any sense. Meaning that how things were operating in the past are not necessarily how things are going to be operating in the future. So if you wanted to hold events, with thousands of people, that might not be happening like that, close together all in one room for a little while. Maybe it's online. So just think about, when you're thinking about starting over, think about, how do I start over in this new world? Consider the reset button. This is a new step. So starting over, the first thing to do is get honest. Get honest with yourself. Get honest with the reality of the situation. Get honest that this is what it is. We're not going back on April 13th or whatever it is, and we're just going to go back to normal, and everything's just going to be fine. And the world has changed, period. So get to that point now. Understand that now. Got it. All right, what do I do about it? What can I do? What can I change differently? What services do I need to add? What business do I need to create? What is what I was doing before going to work? If I hold on-site events with thousands of people over the course of a weekend doing estate sales, maybe that model is not going to work for the next 6 months or year. That's a problem. So now I have to fix that, solve that problem. So discipline yourself. You need to discipline yourself on everything that you're doing. and make sure that what you're doing are the correct actions. Yeah, you should absolutely have your free time, but you should carve it out. You should say, hey, from this time to this time is my free time. And then every other time, I'm working on doing something. I'm working on creating something. I'm working on learning something. I'm taking a course. I'm taking an online course. I'm doing some sort of self-improvement. I have an uncle who's very dear to me, and he lost a lot of money in the stock market in 2008. And the one thing he told me that many years ago was the one thing that no one can ever take away from you is if you invest in yourself. Invest in your skills, invest in what you know, invest in learning something, because no one can take that away from you. And as I sit here right now, with everything being stripped from everybody, I understand that, because that's what I did. I invested heavily in education, in self-improvement, and things like that. And now that's what you can do right now. That's an opportunity that you have. Absolutely. So discipline yourself. Don't hold on to yesterday's money is on my list of starting over. I know that for me in my business, I'm thinking, oh, we have this much money. I can get through this much time. Okay. What happens after that much time? You need to not hold on to what you have and thinking it's enough, because it's probably not. You have to move into the future and say, okay, what happens at this date? Or what happens when I run out of this money, and what do I need to be producing? What can I do now so that I can produce revenue then? Don't hold on to yesterday's money. Define what's important to you and what's unimportant. Define your assets, define your liabilities. I think I had something else on here. Define what's important, define what's unimportant, cut out what's unimportant. Make the list of assets and liabilities. Make your list. What are my assets? My assets are my skills. My assets are what I can provide. My assets are my ability to learn anything about anything and learn any skill. My assets are my family. My assets are, my wife, my child. My assets are, whatever it is. And what are my liabilities? Man, maybe this space that I'm in is a liability at some point. Maybe if we don't pay for it, or if we can't pay for it down the line, maybe it becomes a liability. Right now it's an asset. And what else could be a liability? Maybe the 3 vans I just bought. Last month I bought 3 vans, and I have, $1,500, $2,000 worth of note on those per month. Maybe those went from an asset, real heavy asset, to complete liability, just like that. So you have to assess these things so that you can think of, okay, what happens with those vans? What happens with this office in 2 months if this is still going on? If I can't create revenue, or what do I do now to create revenue so I can maintain, or it doesn't make sense to keep all these things? You have to think, you have to inventory that. That's like the biggest part of this, inventory what's important, what's not important in your assets and liabilities. Inventory your products, services, or skills. You have to have you have to start thinking, what is some sort of skill? And somebody told me, and I agree with them, hey Aaron, you don't have to do estate sales. You could start an online business right now. You could do these other things. I'm like, yeah, you're right. I need to look into, I need to assess what I know how to do and what I can learn and what's actually real for me to do. That's what you guys need to be doing. Every employee of mine needs to be doing that right now, or past employee, every future employee, every person on this planet needs to assess, well, what do I do? What can I do? What services can I offer? What can I figure out? Inventory your contacts, all the people you know, past sold clients, unsold clients, family, friends, people that you knew when you were in elementary school. Like, inventory your contacts. Make hard decisions. This is probably the biggest thing that you have to do, is make the hard decisions. You have to look at those assets, look at those liabilities, look at the reality of the situation, and then start making those hard decisions. Okay, do I want these people that are on my liability list to go into the future with me or not? That's a hard decision, Do I want to keep operating the way I was operating before? Do I want to protect myself by changing our operations or doing something else? These are the hard decisions. Do I keep this house? Do I pull all my money out of the stock market and put it behind real assets? All these different things that you could be making decisions on. Do I keep calling them? Do I keep talking to those friends who are always talking about bad news? Do I keep watching the news? Make decisions about your future now. Make the hard decisions so you can prepare yourself in the future. Super important. Make a list of who or what you are willing to give up. Make that list. What am I willing to give up? Because as we talked about in the beginning, change, the definition is to make or become different. Give up something in exchange for something else. You have to give something up. Me and my wife, we talk all the time about, I make fun of her because she keeps all of her old clothes and all these things, and I just throw out everything or donate everything. And I went through I spent 2 whole days through this process doing a project in my daughter's bedroom to clear out every single thing that we didn't need and she didn't want or that I could talk her out of, and then to put the room back how she wanted it, and so we had to make a list of what we were willing to give up to get that new scene, to get that new ideal way of life. You have to give up things. Maybe you have to give up where you live. Maybe you have to give up what state you live in. Maybe you want to move now. Maybe this is your opportunity. All those things that you were sitting there considering before, that you've been struggling with, that you've been like, man, any problem that you've had over the past 6 months, like I have several, but I'm just sitting there grinding on, not making a decision. This is your opportunity to make that decision, make that hard decision. Do it now. Make a list of who or what you are willing to give up. We just talked about that. Make a list of what you have to do going forward. So after you give up things, after you said make a list of who or what you can give up and what you want to give up to go into this new world, you have to make a list of what you are going to do. What is the new plan? You have to, once you have that void, now you have to put some create into it, put some ideas, put some thought, So here's the list again, just in case you didn't get it. Get honest, write this down. Get honest, number 1. Number 2, discipline yourself. Discipline your time. Number 3, don't hold on to yesterday's money. Don't hold on thinking that you have enough money. You have to figure out how to create more revenue. Number 4 is define what's important, what's unimportant. Number 5 is make the list of assets and liabilities. Number 7, am I in 7 or 6? Inventory your product, services, or your skills if you're a person. Inventory what you got. Inventory your prices. Inventory, maybe the prices that I was charging aren't going to work going forward. Like, maybe I got to give some deals right now just to keep it rolling in. Like, maybe I got to cut out all of my, whatever you call it. You just have to figure out what you can, inventory your products and services, and then to see if those are going to work. Inventory your contacts. I don't know what number we're on. Make hard decisions. You have to make hard decisions now. Make a list of who or what you are willing to give up, and then make a list of what you have to do going forward. That's my plan. That's what I got for you. I hope I didn't slam on this too much where the microphone was right there. I forgot it was right there. But that's what you have to do right now. You have to make that list of assets and liabilities, decide what you're going to give up and what you want to do going forward. And every single person on this planet has the opportunity right now to change what they were doing, to make new decisions, to make new plans, to create something new, to do something else going forward. And you have to consider the world which you will be going forward into is going to be different, period. So, change. Make or become different. Give something up. Give up something in exchange for something else. Comes from the derivation Latin barter. So we're going to barter our past for our future. And that's pretty exciting for me. And I hope it's exciting for you. I hope this gives you the thought that you can create and do anything. And what you were doing in the past, you might want to think of now of changing it, because it might not work the same for a while. It might be 3 months. It might be 6 months. It might be a year before you can go back to operating how we were operating 3 months ago. And so if you plan now for that, then also in the future, maybe 5 years down the line, you'll have the systems and processes in place to never have this situation again in a recession, to never have this situation again in a economy crash or in a virus situation. Like, it's unprecedented that everyone has been stripped out of their businesses and stripped out of their work, and told to stay home, the whole country, pretty much. That is crazy. And so, how do you plan for that? You didn't. No one did. So what do you do about it? You plan for it to happen in 30 more years. You say, okay, what do we need to do now? And what do we change? And how does this work? And that's my advice for you. So thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate it. I didn't see, where I'm at has 0 comments. But thank you. And I hope that you take this. I hope you wrote some stuff down to thrive in this new future, in this new world. I'm going to call it a new world because it's never going to operate the same. And you need to get to that now so that you can start planning. Thank you. Have a great